Hello, everyone. Today on Inside the Foundry, we have Uvika Sharma. Uvika has had one of the most diverse and unconventional career paths I've seen. And I'm not kidding. So, when I say diverse, I mean it. She went from wanting to be a pre med to being on the floors at Wall Street to consulting with Accenture for a long time with enterprise. And then I think also compliance at Pfizer, right, Uvika? Yes. So there you go. That's dots, but dots all over the place. And right now, she is the founder and the CEO of INTLDA, which she uses to consult with enterprise and C suite executives on AI literacy and governance, something that is not being talked about enough. She is also the co founder of Asian Women in AI, something really cool. Yuvika, welcome. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Prithvi. That is such a nice introduction. I really appreciate it and looking forward to chatting with you today.
Great. So we'll start with crossing borders, right, or crossing boundaries, if you may, right? You lived in between India and the US in terms of a career and what you did and where you did. It was always about crossing a border or crossing a boundary at some point in time, right? So, what out of that whole crossing the border journey has informed you about invention or transformation, if you will?
Yeah, so I've been fortunate enough to have lived in about 4 countries. And as you were talking about my intro, that I've made a number of pivots. So I'm extremely grateful for that. And all these experiences, whether it was crossing boundaries, borders or different functions or different industries, all these experiences help me build something that we called as an adapter mindset, right? Because when you're shifting, whether it is different locations, different functions, you gain a lot of perspective. You
Right,
learn to listen differently. You learn to translate things that are not even said, and you
right,
learn to observe and not panic when the rules change. So for me, innovation or reinvention isn't a dramatic moment, but more like a muscle. And over time, reinvention became more about starting over, more about building on top of what I have already gained over these experiences. And every new pivot, every new change added a new layer, whether it was learning about how things worked in pharma, giving me that systems thinking when I had taken on a role in consulting, and now focusing more on creativity and ethics and governance and AI. So, as of now, reinvention feels like a natural state and not a disruption. And I like to say that, oh, new lens. What can I see with this? What can I gain more out of it?
yeah, it's great. You broke that down in a very structured way, actually. That was cool. You know, the last time we spoke, you said your career or your path has been a lot of accidental pivots. But then the underlying factor was curiosity, right? So at what point does curiosity become the default model of operation? Or does it ever get to that stage? And what's the trust issues once you get to that point?
Yeah, so it's interesting when you say accidental pivots. And yes, I have had a number of different pivots. As I had explained to you, I wanted to be a pre med student, I wanted to be a doctor, and then I ended up as a computer scientist on Wall Street. And I made a number of different pivots. So I learned that curiosity gives you a direction to move
Mm,
forward, and it can help you figure out where you want to go and even plan things. But it's not the
right,
kind of things that you would map out in a 5 year plan. People do that. Oh, what is your 5 year plan? Or what is your
right,
life plan for 10 years? I learned to take it as a way of staying awake and thinking of how I can plan my next steps and where I want to go and what I want to experience. And a lot of my career moves didn't come from ambition.
mm,
They came from questions that I couldn't stop thinking about. Even when I was at Pfizer and I ended up in a role where I was rolling out trainings to 90,000 people, I started asking questions such as, how do you know your trainings are effective? So just asking questions. And I've learned to trust my curiosity, and some interesting things that I observed. It keeps resurfacing no matter how busy life gets. And sometimes sometimes it scares me enough just to signal growth, but not danger. I've learned to realize that curiosity doesn't give you a full blown roadmap, but it gives you momentum. It energizes you to go forward. And I'd rather follow that energy rather than having a well planned life.
Fair enough. So you said you have a step by step process, right? When it comes to your forward thinking. So how many steps ahead do you think at any given point in time? Or is it always 0 to 1 and then you get to 1 and then that becomes your new zero?
It's hard to say, Prithvi. It really varies. It depends on the
Okay.
situation. It
Right.
depends on what I'm trying to do. And it also depends on how important that thing is that I'm thinking about. So even when I'm
Right.
walking the dog, I'll get some crazy ideas and then I'll go write them down. And then I would go back and look at those ideas and say that, okay, how important is this to what I want to do and where it also fits? So I also try to
Right.
piece a lot of things together.
Yeah.
So then, if it's something really critical, then yes, I try to pursue it maybe for a couple of months or maybe even 6 months and see where it goes. So, yeah, I try to plan out the steps that I need to take, but I don't have a fixed formula.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, makes sense. There's probably a big overarching North Star, and then
Yeah.
it's just a matter of what gets thrown at us and then seeing if
Yes.
those pieces fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the same time, I've met many people who have a very rigid 10-year plan and they've stuck to it. And that's a bucket that keeps getting filled and emptied. People have spoken it and said it. And I know people now who speak that language and who are actually at it. And I cannot understand how things work for them. So I stopped thinking.
It's good for them. Hey, whatever works for everyone, right?
So when you left corporate, that's a mindset shift. Why is that a mindset shift? Is that direction in corporate is usually external, right? At large enterprise. Whereas when you get into consulting, to a certain extent, once you become extra niche, like what you're doing right now at INTLDA, this came from within. They're two different mindsets, right? Was there a little bit of both in your previous life, or is this new to you? And if this is, what's your observation of both worlds?
That's a very interesting question. So, my observation has been that corporate life gives you a somewhat well defined playbook. And I'm very happy for the folks who decide to stick in it. And I have friends who are working in corporate. And I also used to be part of that world once upon a time.
Mhm.
And that playbook is defined by a ladder. You have titles that people are trying to pursue, there's promotion. When I switched to the consulting side, and by the way, it happened 2 times. So I was in corporate, then I transitioned into consulting. Then I left to be an independent consultant. Then I went back to being into corporate. And then I went back to being a consultant for life. And I hope it stays that way till the time
Right.
I die. I learned that consulting gives you a blank page
Mm.
and it gives you the power to put in what is it that I want to put in here. It's sometimes scary, but it is also so liberating. I
Right.
recently had a friend who left a consulting organization after a number of years, and I said to him, welcome, the golden handcuffs is
Right.
finally off.
Right.
So, what I realized is that I didn't leave to do less or more work. I kid you not, I work more than I worked in corporate.
Right.
But I left to do more meaningful work. I started looking at things such as how am I making an impact? Who am I helping grow? Whose decisions are getting impacted because of my guidance? And how is the work aligned with my values, especially around responsible AI? I like to think that corporate success was an achievement, and the consulting type of work that I'm trying to do is more purpose with impact. So once I felt that difference, I didn't look back, and I'm very
Right.
grateful for it.
Yeah, I can see that. It's all over your face. You have this. I've never seen that on a. Maybe once I have a consultant friend who used to work for Accenture as well. He always had, he still has that glow when he talks about his Accenture days. I really wanted to ask this question because something in your answer made me think of it. What's the biggest fire you put out
What's the
in your
biggest
career?
fire I put out?
Yes, something that you're proud of, right? That if it wasn't you, it would have either taken longer or it took. both your human and intellectual abilities?
For me, it's been about how I can help people see how to have a more problem solving mindset. I think
Hmm.
that's one. Sometimes people get lost in tasks and not seeing the bigger picture. So,
Hmm.
also connecting things to the
Hmm.
overall North Star goal, right? What is it that you're trying to achieve? What
Right.
problem that you're trying to solve?
Right.
And then, how do we ensure that we are being ethical and being responsible while trying to solve that problem? And I feel very happy when people are receptive to it, whether it is helping people understand or companies understand when we are talking about responsible AI or AI literacy, why those things are important. And once they realize the importance of these things and start going on that path, it gives me a lot of satisfaction and happiness.
Makes sense. So there's been a lot of noise online about AI, right? Everywhere, in fact. And what's struck me as unique about you when I came across your profile on LinkedIn is that you were talking about AI literacy, which I hadn't said it out aloud or hadn't thought about it, but it's supposed to be AI 101. The first principle is that, hey, what is this? What is it now capable of? What should we be careful about while using it? It does seem, while a lot of people are saying, hey, there's not much AI going into production, 95% of AI projects remain POCs. How much of that, a lot of them attribute it to technical issues with AI, but I don't think it is. I think it's connected to AI literacy. And so, what are your thoughts on it? And what have you seen when you've spoken to your clients?
Yeah, so there are a lot of things that are happening, Prithvi. As you said, first of all, with respect to the whole AI literacy concept, yes, it is AI 101. And you'll be surprised to hear a lot of companies are not doing AI literacy. They are not investing enough resources, and sometimes they're not even investing into the right resources. I recently had a conversation with somebody who had a consultant who offloaded every single tool that was out there on them. And the company felt very lost in terms
Hmm.
of how they are adopting AI. And then I'm speaking to a number of people where there is this frenzy and that pressure where everybody is talking about we need to be an AI first company.
Right.
And some people are even complaining that AI is being pushed down their throat, whether they like it or not. I feel that's not the right way. And the conversations that I'm having with people is, and especially leaders, is helping them understand that AI is not a magic tool. It's a capability, and capabilities need to have solid foundations. And those solid foundations mean having literacy, having
Right.
governance, and having alignment. I always like to remind people that learn to walk before you run.
Right.
And what works well when you help leaders realize these things is by giving them a structured pause. Right? One
Hmm.
of them is, of course, literacy workshops, having them go through readiness assessment and talking about the risks and how AI fits into their North Star goal or what they're trying to do. So once we establish that shared vocabulary and that mental model, that
Right.
helps to calm things down.
Right.
And then we have real conversations about, okay, what problems are you trying to solve and why now and who benefits, who gets harmed. And oftentimes we even realize that sometimes AI is not the solution. AI
Right.
is not a silver bullet that needs to be forced and it's going to solve all your problems.
Right.
And let's remember to use AI responsibly where it's required to drive impact.
And it makes sense that you said, a lot of people, for them, AI is being pushed down on them with no direction. And I think that's why it makes sense that you approach leaders first, right? I
Yeah.
think AI is interesting in it that literacy starts at the top,
Yes.
right? It's not always the case because in many cases, literacy can start at the bottom or somewhere in between and then flow from there. But AI is very unique in that. So then the next thing becomes when you talk to leaders who are being bombarded with AI first and AI ready or all kinds of FOMO. In a sense, Talking to them about these things and making them care about these things is getting them to slow down in a certain way, is it not?
It does help them slow down. When you talk to them about these things, it
Right.
does help them slow down,
Your goal
realize.
as well is
I want them
is
to
to
slow
get
down.
slow down
Yes, I
and
want
then
them to treat carefully because it's important for them to pause and reflect and
right,
then see that whether this is the right tool
right,
for solving your problems. And just to comment on the thing that you said about literacy, absolutely, literacy has to start from the top, but people below also need to be literate.
correct,
Everybody needs to be AI literate, whether it is your
right,
developers, whether it is your middle managers, whether it is your risk managers. Of course, the literacy needs to be tailored. So, one is called
correct.
this broad literacy that everybody needs to know, the AI
Hmm.
101. And then
Hmm.
you have role specific literacy. You need to
Hmm.
start thinking about, okay, what are the implications of XYZ things in my role as I'm building solutions? So you need to ask those hard questions. But yes, the intent is to slow down, but not to slow down to make things bad, but do it so that you can be successful. Slowing down doesn't mean that you're going to lose the race. It's about
Right,
how do you do it in such a way that you're going to win in the end.
right. In a way that the machine stays together, doesn't fall apart 10 meters from the finish line.
You don't
Right.
want to regret later
Yes.
on. Precaution
Yes.
is always better than cure.
Yes. So AI is also unique in another way. It's moving at a speed we've not seen anything else move. Everything else took time to go mainstream. For AI, at some point last year, it was like a massive switch, right? So then we just spoke about slowing down, whereas on the other hand, everything else is moving at lightning speed, right? What's the signal through noise approach here?
I always say that make sure you use AI responsibly. Use
Okay.
it where you need to use it and make sure that you are aware of the limitations, you understand the unintended consequences, and you are designing for people who aren't in the room. But that's my
Mhm.
version. And if you're talking about what is going to happen over the next few months or year, I don't know.
Mhm.
But that's my signal to people
Right.
that I speak with.
So once you have someone on board, right,
Yeah.
they're aligned with, hey, okay, we're going to do it responsibly. And here's what maybe the next 12-month roadmap looks like. Have you seen challenges in operationalizing those things on the action side of things?
Yeah. It's always a mixed bag of things and it's unique for everybody.
Okay.
So we'll go in and sometimes we'll discover that people don't have their processes mapped properly, or we'll discover things as that there is not enough attention on things related to data, whether it
Mhm.
is how the data is being handled. People sometimes are not adhering to the data privacy rules. There is not enough documentation in place. So it's a lot of cleanup that needs to happen and that helps slows things down, but it's a reminder that it's better.
Right.
Let's fix as we discover that there are problems, because folks who are building new systems and especially like startups, I feel that they have a huge edge
Mhm.
because they are going to be building things from the ground up, and it's better to start fresh. It's better to start doing things the right way. But when we are
Right.
talking about enterprise clients or companies where they have legacy systems and they have stuff that's siloed, it gets very challenging. But the thing is that still keeping that mindset, the responsible mindset, that we need to do things the right way. It is going to take time, but let's
Right.
invest into it and let's do it the right way.
Makes sense. So let's talk about something special for you, right? Asian women in AI. I love the origin story. I want you to talk about why that came about and how it came about because there are two separately cool stories involved, if I remember.
Yes. So I started pivoting into AI right when I was leaving Pfizer around. 2019, because for me, I've worked enough with data, I've been on a lot of different roles, and what next? And of course, at around 2022, ChatGPT came, so I had already been studying it and working with it a little bit. And as things move very fast, every single day there is news about XYZ model came. Just today, I found that Nano Banana Pro is out, and I said, oh God, I haven't even had a chance to try the other one yet. So it does get a little overwhelming for folks and for me too. So I was at a conference last year and I knew my friend Padmini through a community that we had met in. So we were at this conference and somebody came up to her. And at the time, I was already on my way back to New York and asked her that there's nothing for Asian women in AI. And then she called me. She says, somebody said this. Do you think we should start this? And I said, absolutely. We should definitely start this. And she and I had talked about that how sometimes it can be very lonely. And then thankfully, we had started talking about things where she manages her own business. But we had that common thing that yes, it can be a little overwhelming. Let's buddy up and talk to each other. So we started forming that beautiful relationship. And then when that idea came about that, okay, we should start something because there may be so many other women out there who may be feeling that sense of being overwhelmed. And we wanted to create a space where women can come and connect and ask questions and not be overwhelmed and have that safe space. So we didn't think of starting it as a movement, but it started as a conversation. And we slowly started seeing that people started joining that because they started seeing themselves in it. So started with an idea, and yes, we've had a number of great events. We've had such amazing speakers who've come and share their knowledge with the community. We've had speakers from Google. We've had some very successful entrepreneurs who've come and share their knowledge. We even have upskilling labs. We have a mentorship program. But the lessons from the community and running a Y for 1 year has been that community grows when people feel seen. And we didn't scale it fast. We just went with the flow, one coffee chat, one event, and one story at a time. And as more women showed up, the loneliness turned into belonging, and that belonging turned into momentum. And we started building trust. And they also know that we don't have all the answers, but we have each other. And now we want to grow the community, and we have this bold mission where we want to empower 1 million women to shape the future of AI by 2030. And we are going to do that via literacy. And the plan to achieve that goal is to have chapters, because Padmini and I started online with the community, but now we want to have these individual chapters at cities, universities, where events can be organized and where women can come and learn from each other. But yes, literacy is a huge part of it, and we are super excited.
It's really great how, again, like there's a very structured way that you're going about this, right? Even though one would think that it's organic or fluid or it's growing organically, but the steps also seem very logical along the journey. So that's nice.
That's nice to hear because
Yes, yes.
we
And
dived into it without thinking anything.
yes, yes. And it's great that it started as a group of two,
Yes,
right?
it
The
started as a
smallest,
group
it's
of
like a
two.
like one cell multiplies into two, kind of at that
Yes,
level. I know we spoke about it the last time that Asian women are socially a little more reserved.
yes,
They're not as expressive in public or professional settings, or at
that's
least they
true.
weren't when you went through most of your early career days. So I think it's very warming, actually. Really cool.
It's a really
And so
great
now you
point.
have 30 chapters, am I right?
We are launching 30 chapters. It's actually happening now. So we already had our first chapter in September at University of North Carolina. We already have the Austin chapter that has started. We met with the folks a couple of weeks ago where we talked about what chapters that they want to launch. And yes, mind it, we have a code of conduct, etc. as well, where we want people to follow certain things, but we also want to give autonomy to the chapters. So it's going to be happening over the next several months and leading into 2026. We don't want to force people. We want
Hmm.
people to take it as it comes, and
Right.
they are going to run with it as if it's there. We are just going to be overseeing things. We want to make sure that
Hmm.
nothing goes wrong, but there is
Hmm.
no set deadline that says that, oh, by X date, we need to have X chapters.
Okay.
It's
Yes.
interesting you said that there is structure, and I'm very amazed to hear that from you because, yes, while we did put structure around things, but even when the idea came about, we launched the community within 2 weeks and then we grew over time. Yes, we were
Right.
intentional about what kind of topics that we wanted to share and discuss within the community, what kind of speakers we want to bring them, what kind of speakers we want to bring to the community so that people can learn from them, listen to them. But there has been some a good aspect of fluidity. We also went with a lot of things going with the flow, and we also have
Hmm.
some very exciting things that we are thinking about for 2026. We want to have a global summit where we want to have people coming together. And by the way, we celebrated our 1 year anniversary in DC where we organized a women's breakfast at a conference. And it was at the same
That's really
conference
nice.
where the seed was planted.
That's great.
Yes, some things are planned,
You had a full
some
house
things, yeah,
and
for a
and a great
7:30 morning.
breakfast.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I'm going to ask you another question along the same lines of
Yes.
most of our conversation.
Yeah.
Speed and stillness. In many ways, you had to execute at speed, right? For example, it looks like you had opportunities or you pursued paths where you were able to spend, if we consider everything a step by step progression, you were able to spend a lot of time with each step. So, an example would be when you just had one chapter, you were not in a rush to make it 5 or 10, that you would have spent a few months staying at that state. So that kind of builds intimacy if you look at it, right? Because you're existing over an extended period of time. To me, I think that's needed across the board. But then there's also the requirement to deliver or produce outcomes at speed. Where's the balance, or what do you think should drive action in what context?
Yeah, so it again depends the context and what you're trying to achieve, right? Honestly, Prithvi, we didn't have any kind of pressure because that was something that Padmini and I started. So this was our baby, and we wanted to shape it how we wanted to shape. We don't have any sponsorships yet, right? This is completely bootstrapped, and nobody's
Right.
dictating to us that you need to do this. But yes, we established a process around certain things that we need to have two online sessions every month, and one is going to be a specific kind of session. And one is going to be another kind of upskilling lab. So, yes, we had to put some structure and we needed to establish when those things would need to happen. We had to work around those things. So, yes, there were times where we would be drafting posts at midnight and
Mm.
posting because we need to make sure that the LinkedIn algorithms do their job and we need to post giving enough time so that people have a chance to see and register.
Right.
So, yes, in that context, speed does matter. We need to stick to some deadlines because people expect that, oh, Awa is going to be having a roundtable event, or they know that there is a learn and lead session. People expect by default that there will be something that's going to be coming. Either Padmini is going to post or I'm going to post. Yes, it was also getting a little overwhelming because it was just both of us who were trying to do everything, whether it was contacting the speakers, talking to the speakers, interviewing them, brainstorming with them on what they want to talk about, and testing and making sure everything goes well, sourcing the bios and crafting the posts, etc., and then summarizing the post. So yes, it was a lot of work. And then we thought that, okay, how can we ease that pressure? And now we have two interns that we've got who are helping us manage some things. So thank God to them. And we also have an
Yeah, that's great.
Instagram handle where
Right.
we have the interns who are looking at information that we have collected and now they're making posts about it so that you're
That's great.
reinforcing some of the lessons. So yes, in some cases there was that pressure of speed and acting on time, but honestly it was more because we wanted to make sure that we are delivering. We are sticking
Right.
to some of the things that we have established for ourselves, but there
Right.
was really nobody holding a sword on our head that
Right.
you need to do this or you need to show X this. It was more because we were answerable to ourselves.
Really cool. So then it sounds like you had the space to do what you want in this case because
Yeah.
this was your baby,
Yes,
right?
I had the autonomy. I have to say that Padmini and I had the autonomy.
Right. So it's one thing to say, how did we operate? But then were there things that blew your mind? Because it's something fundamentally very different, right? Because, for example, like when I woke up after I exited my hotel business, I asked myself, why do I have to do anything at all today? I never imagined I would ask myself that question in my life. So things like that come up when we operate in space, which we usually don't.
Yeah, so there was a common purpose, right? And that
Hmm.
common purpose was that we want to make sure that we are making an impact. We want to make sure that we are empowering others. We want to make
Right.
sure we are creating a space where other women can come. They can feel seen, they can feel heard, and they can gain the confidence that is needed to go and speak up in rooms, and they can strengthen their knowledge. Because in a technology like AI, and we have countless examples where we've heard that AI goes wrong, and who's in the room really matters.
Right.
How this technology is being built. So, oftentimes, we are not always present in the data, but at least we can make that small contribution in making sure that the women are there in the rooms when the decisions are being made or how the
Right.
technology is being designed. So,
Right.
having that purpose and making sure that AI is used responsibly and
Right.
ethically, and AI is inclusive, and the future of AI is inclusive. I
Right.
believe that was the common thing. And it's always also this thing about giving back.
Right.
And when you give back, you feel good. You feel that
Right.
you've done something for somebody else.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like, how do I say it? It almost sounds like this space, because you were afforded that space, you were able to look at and care about a lot of human aspects of this whole, whether it be AI or the way you want your voice to speak about AI. Because everything that you just mentioned, getting people together, the right people together, and then making sure they're heard, etc., is very human.
Yeah.
So I guess then maybe that's what it is, right? You were able to care about the more human things that probably do not get cared about when everyone's in a rush.
Yes,
So that's
that is
cool.
true.
Awesome. So you have multiple shades. Let me put it this way. I was trying to think about how to say it, right? You do have multiple shades, right? You're a leader, you are a champion for AI governance and literacy, and you have your background in data, in consulting, in enterprise, etc., etc. And then I'm sure you're able to use all of these at command. How do you think all of these are going to evolve given AI is here now over the next, I want to say, 5 years? What does Uvika, the mentor, want to do? What does Uvika, the AI governance champion, want to be working on? And so on. At least the three big shades of yours.
Oh boy. I hope people feel that, and I'm thinking about this as a responsible AI champion. I don't want people to feel intimidated. I want people to be empowered.
Mm-hmm.
AI is here and it is a huge opportunity. It all depends on how people use it. And it has the potential to solve a lot of problems. We
Right.
already know that AI is being used to solve problems in identifying cures for diseases, for even discovering new drugs. And there's so many places where AI is helping solve
Right.
problems. So I want people to have a problem solving mindset and use AI responsibly. Don't fear it. Be AI
Mm-hmm.
literate. And in terms of how I want to shape or the different shade or whatever you call it, or how I want the next few years to be, and even the next several years, is I want to help people. I want to empower people. And there is this close thing about I have a boy, I don't have a daughter.
Mhm.
I really want to empower women as well. I want women to feel that they can trust their creativity, their judgment, and not lose their voice in this AI era because a lot of things are being automated. So, going back to the human aspect, right? I
Mhm.
want people to always keep that at the center.
Mm.
And even the new generation that's going to come, the women who are going to be entering the workforce, I hope that they don't feel compelled to choose between being technical and being human. I feel that people can lead with both and they can build with both. And you can make the world whatever you want it to be with both.
That's really nice. So to close, right? If someone came to me and said, "Hey, I want to be AI literate," right? I'm aware of enough noise. I messed around with ChatGPT. The engineering teams at work seem to be using Cursor or Claude or blah blah blah, right? Where do I start? What advice would you give them? Does Hawaii have like a web page or writings that they can refer to? Is there a YouTube channel that you particularly like where people can get
Yeah.
started?
Yeah. So first of all, they can contact Intilda. We absolutely
Mhm.
help provide literacy trainings. We have a Y, which offers free community calls. At least for now, it
Mhm.
has been free, and we hope we can keep it that way. And we also have a
Mhm.
YouTube channel where we've had past speaker sessions that have been uploaded so people can listen to those, they can watch those upskilling labs. But I want to make a comment on what you said, Prithvi, that people have experimented with ChatGPT or have experimented with tools. That is not AI literacy. So
It's
I want to
not.
make that correction because whenever I talk to people and I say that, oh, it's important to become AI literate, I often get an answer. Oh, I've been using ChatGPT. I don't need to know
Right.
anything else. So when we talk about AI literacy, it's understanding what AI is. A
Right.
lot of people don't even know that AI has been around since the 50s, right?
Yes.
It's just that now the thing people most often talk about is generative AI. So ChatGPT is that one form of AI. But coming back to AI literacy, it's understanding the capabilities, but also understanding the risks, right? And then figuring out as you work with tools, how do you
Hmm.
use those tools responsibly? So there's that intersection of responsible use of AI and why AI literacy is so important to make sure that you're using the technology responsibly. There are tons and tons of courses that are out there, and I'm not going to make any controversial comments that X course is better than Y course. But
Yeah.
what I have learned is the best way of learning is learning by doing, right? But also
Right.
asking questions, the next step, okay, how does it help solve the problem that I'm trying to solve? But yeah, going to AI literacy, understanding what AI is, what it can do. And if you are struggling, then reach out to trusted professionals who do know a two
Right.
or thing, right? So there are tons and tons of AI influencers out there. Great job. They're doing amazing job, but they're not necessarily talking about AI literacy all the time, but some of them
Right.
are, right? So it's also
Hmm.
figuring out how do you clear the noise and figuring out what's going to work best for you and learning about literacy the way you want to learn. And everybody's going to have a different definition of AI literacy. So my definition is that understanding what AI is, what its capabilities are, and understanding the risk, and also figuring out how to use it responsibly. And there are clear ways of doing that. And the most important thing is not forgetting to use your critical thinking skills. So that's
Right.
another
Right.
important lesson that
Right.
we try to communicate through literacy, because
Right.
oftentimes what happens is when people start using the tools, they just offload their
Yes.
cognitive abilities.
Yes.
They just blindly trust what the output is going to be, and then they just forget to do some critical checks.
Yes.
So that's what it is. These are just some examples when I'm talking about AI
Right.
literacy. So using tools is not literacy. Yes, it is a
Correct.
way of understanding how AI works. But yeah, those would be my closing thoughts and my 2 cents on AI literacy.
Okay. What's your favorite AI podcast?
Oh
Yes.
God. Oh boy.
Or just any podcast.
Oh,
Sure,
it's
you listen
actually
to.
not an AI podcast.
Fair enough.
It
It
is
doesn't
not an
need to
AI.
be AI.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, of course, I do like some of the folks. I'll give you two. So,
Hmm.
the AI one is I like Jordan's podcast. It's hard for me to log on to his thing. I know he does something on LinkedIn live every day, but I get his emails, the Everyday AI. I like
Hmm.
how he summarizes everything. So, for people who are trying to figure out what's going on, so
Hmm.
that's one. But there is a non AI podcast that I often listen to when I'm walking my dog, and that's by Matt Abraham. He is a
Hmm.
professor at Stanford, and his podcast name is Think Fast, Talk Smart.
Okay, that sounds
Oh, I have to take a
interesting,
look at it.
actually.
Yeah, you might have to look it up because he's a
Yeah,
communication
I'll look it up.
professor,
Hmm.
and I might have jumbled up the thing because now it's by default. I just click on it because it's like one of my favorites, and then I just hear the episode. But the lessons that you get from it are so useful for
Hmm.
whatever you're trying to do in life. While they center around communication, I really enjoy listening
Right.
to what he has to say, and he interviews certain guests. Yeah, so I'm a big fan of him.
So it's a mix of monologues and conversations.
Most of them are conversations where
Okay.
he'll get folks and he'll interview them and he has a rapid fire round. But yeah, I really
Okay.
enjoy. I always keep coming back to that podcast because I find it very educational and informational as well because I always learn something. So it's not
Right.
necessarily about AI, but I just enjoy it.
Great. I'm glad I asked you that question. Yeah, the whole time you were talking about it, your face is lit up with happiness. So there should be something on that podcast. I can't wait to check it out.
I hope you enjoy it.
All right. Great. Thanks, Yuvika. This is again two great conversations we've had.
Thank you so much for having me. I
Yes.
really
Yes.
enjoyed speaking with you, and it was very interesting to think about things that I had not even thought about. I really enjoyed the conversation. And yes, if any of your listeners are interested in joining a Y, please feel free to reach out to me or Padmini on LinkedIn. We are always looking to make new friends, and it's very easy to join the community. It's a LinkedIn group, so they can just
I will.
request to join.
I will.
And yeah, thank you so much.